This week, President Trump cracks down on crime in D.C. Our panel reacts. The Walt Disney Corporation is the latest company to surrender over politics in court. And another week, another bombshell in the declassification of Obama's executive branch. These stories and much more straight ahead this week on The Lion Week in Review. Welcome into this week's edition of The Lion Week in Review. It's a weekly look at the culture, the courts, your state capital, and your kids. I'm Chris Stigall, and now let's meet our panel for the week. The men and women behind the stories you read and things you listen to here at readlion.com. Michael Ryan is our executive editor. Adam Wittenberg, staff reporter at The Lion, and the host of the Herzog Podcast Network, Life Beyond Abortion. It's Melissa Oden. Great to have you all as we dive into it today, folks. And the violence plaguing American cities. That's kind of the top headline story of the week. We start with you. Adam, you all write at the Lion this week that it's not just D.C. That's gotten the bulk of the attention, but it's not just D.C. certainly that has the violence.
Yeah, this is very true, and you'll notice that many of our largest cities, which are primarily run by Democrats and have been for decades, have these sky-high violence rates that ordinary people have been just told to tolerate or treat like it's normal. And what we have here is Trump coming in and saying, this is not normal. D.C.'s been violent for years. We need to make reforms. Let's hope maybe this exposure could ripple over to Baltimore, Detroit, Chicago, some of these other places.
Michael, this is, again, it's not new to most people that live in the urban core. In fact, I was talking about this week. People that live in urban centers, if they ever did, typically when they have families, they flee. A lot of people with families never even think of moving into them to begin with.
Yeah, it's like school choice, only crime version. You get some people have crime choice. They can move away from it. A lot of people can't. It's interesting, though, that this is actually being protested in D.C., and, after they protested getting rid of dangerous illegals, and they protested making government more efficient, now they're protesting safe streets. Of course, law professor Jonathan Turley notes that paid protesters is a growth industry, especially in D.C., but most normal people, regular people on the streets are saying they want this cleaned up. Now, some people are saying that, and especially in the post-Biden no-cash bail and get-out-of-jail-free card era, but some people are saying this is actually Trump is targeting black communities. Well, it could be argued that black communities have been neglected when it comes to public safety. But it's interesting, too, that the New Mexico governor blasted Trump in a statement for doing this for political motivations, and then just recently put out an emergency order for help for a county in her state for crime.
Melissa, this is one of those things that I think, politically speaking, if you look at the polls, most people certainly support what President Trump is doing, cracking down on crime, but I think there's even something more cynical about it. Democrats are awfully scared, I think, that Republicans may dare make inroads in urban core centers.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Chris, is, what are the Democrats so afraid of? What have they gained all of these decades when the cities have continued to, be turned asunder and the people are suffering? They have clearly gained a lot, and they stand to lose a lot. And once again, the scales are going to fall from people's eyes, and we are finally going to learn just how bad things have been for so long.
And Michael, I'd just close on that point to say Rudy Giuliani is probably one of the most famous former mayors, known Republicans who came in and changed the direction of a city once.
Yeah, it just as a matter of coincidence, I'm rereading his book, post 9/11, and he talked about how he came into office in New York and really cleaned it up. And it was just fascinating the way that he sat down with everybody involved with the crime problem and came up with key indicators that they needed to address to do the issue. You haven't seen that kind of leadership in any major American city since.
Also at readline.com, we cover the culture, and one of the interesting things that Adam has written about this week is Disney settling. I would have said long ago, if you were in the middle of a lawsuit with the Disney folks, you'd be on the losing end of that. But this is a different turnout.
Yeah, this is amazing and really encouraging news. Gina Carano was fired, unceremoniously fired, from The Mandalorian, a popular series in 2021 at the height of COVID, the height of cancel culture. And it was all political, even religious, because she was standing up for individual freedom, freedom of speech, medical freedom, and unpopular things. She didn't fit the narrative. She was pressured, she was fired, she was shamed. Well, she fought back. And who also helped her? Elon Musk, because he stood up for free speech. And she said, I've never even met the man, but he funded her attorneys. And it is stunning to see the 180 the Disney Corp has done in settling and even issuing a positive statement about her, inferring they might even work with her again. Folks, this is reflective of the shift that's taken place since Donald Trump got in the White House. They had nothing to fear when Biden was in there. And I want this to embolden conservatives and level-headed people around the world. We can win. We can push back. There is hope. Like you were saying, Chris, it's not what it was a year, 3 years, 4 years ago.
What about that, Melissa? The kind of reminiscent, not exactly identical, but it seems like another corporate story of the last couple of weeks is the Sydney Sweeney story in the American Eagle Jeans, standing her ground, the company standing its ground. Is corporate America backing down from the woke ideology?
Money talks, doesn't it? And really, I mean, when we talk about money, I think we're thinking about who they are attempting to reach and sell to. So, as our culture changes, those corporations have to change along with our culture in order to be making money. So, they are going to feel it one way or the other. And, I love this whole story about Gina because I'm a fan. Like, I'm fangirling over the whole situation. And, I can't help but think, may the force and common sense be with us all.
How about it, Michael? This is a big, big development. A company that does not, it's not famous for backing down off lawsuits, but it just seems like everywhere you look, the dominoes continue to fall, from CBS to ABC to Disney. These corporations are either losing court cases or settling out of court. It's really interesting.
Yeah, well, clearly she was fired at the drop of a hat. The post that got her most in trouble was comparing, well, not really comparing, just talking about how the Jews were absolutely demonized under Hitler, and the danger of demonizing people, especially for their political views. That's all she was trying to say. Meanwhile, her Disney fellow actor, Pedro Pascal, was posting about how Trump is like Hitler, and enforcing illegal immigration laws is like Nazi concentration camps. But he was fine. He never got in trouble for that. And he was in the last Fantastic Four movie. I give it 2 thumbs up. But he never got in trouble for it. She wonders, and a lot of people wonder, if he was a woman, if that had been the case. Ben Shapiro said, Pedro Pascal can compare illegal immigrant detention centers to concentration camps and still get praise. But if you're Gina Carano and use Holocaust imagery to urge kindness, you're out of a job. Funny how that works. And maybe woke is broke at this point.
Also at readline.com, Adam, you've been working on a story related to the Washington Post's coverage of Arizona, which was really I think they were the first state to kick off what's now known as universal school choice years ago. And the Washington Post decided to take a swipe at it.
Yeah, just another proof you can't believe most or a lot of what you hear in the liberal or mainstream media. Basically what happened in Arizona is a district in Phoenix saw a major decrease in enrollment. Over 8,500 students left the district. And Washington Post wrote a very sympathetic story about the plight of these schools closing in this elementary district. And what did they blame? It's because of school choice. Like you said, Arizona was the first to have universal school choice. Well, we wrote and covered a corrective article that clarified out of these 8,500 students, only 100 of them are using the education freedom accounts, or ESAs. And the vast majority of them just transferred to other public schools because Arizona actually has way more students using public school choice and open enrollment than private. But the media just goes with the narrative of, private school choice is wrecking public school. It's not true, and you can't believe it, and we're here to fact check it.
Michael, that's the thing. Even though school choice exists in a lot of these states, I guess the unfortunate thing is, for those of us that advocate for school choice, a lot of parents either don't know about it or still don't choose to use it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once you have school choice, you love it, but that's not the end of the story, because of stories like this and other propaganda. My advice to states and communities that have school choice is to make sure you tell the success stories loudly and proudly so that it's not taken away from you. I wonder if fast food restaurants or chain department stores have failed. Does the Washington Post consider that to be a problem of consumer choice? Strange.
Michael, we'll stay with you. You've also been profiling who we really value, here at the Herzog Foundation, our parent company at the Lion. We, every year, get the privilege of honoring Christian school teachers from around the country, some of the most excellent in Christian education. We've been doing this for multiple years now, and you profiled some new ones this year.
Yes, and I do think that the Christian Teachers of the Year program at the Herzog Foundation is one of the best things that Herzog does. It's a great honor and really fun every year to meet some of these teachers. On the Lion staff, we get to interview several of them at length. This year I got Kit Avery, who's a business teacher at Southwest Christian High School in Chaska, Minnesota. And his seniors actually have a program called Consulting Enterprise, where they go out and they find a local business that they can help in some way. So they do this project with the help of mentors, with the help of Avery, and with the obvious permission of the business. They do these programs and these projects to help the business improve. And the businesses love it because it's a set of young, fresh eyes with new ideas. And the students, at the same time, are learning not only about business, but how to apply their Christian faith to businesses. And, Kit makes the point that it's not always a favorable thing to have your faith, your Christian faith, in the business world, but these students are finding out it can, in fact, be an asset.
Melissa, I'll just throw you a bit of a curveball here and ask you broadly. When we talk about school choice, we mentioned it in Arizona, we talk about these Christian Teachers of the Year. What are you, as a mom, hearing on the ground these days about the thoughts related to school choice, maybe where you are around the country? Do you think that's a growing sentiment, particularly among mothers and young parents?
Oh, definitely. School choice is a topic of conversation. I already had that conversation with someone today at the orthodontist's office, believe it or not. I mean, that's how top of mind it is. As parents, it's important to us that not only are our children, being taught by teachers who help them achieve good outcomes, but folks like Mr. Avery, who are instilling within our kids these experiences that teach them about their character and their moral compass, being a part of successful lives. This is huge. I love this story.
Adam, just quickly, one last story I wanted to get to before we take a break is Missouri flirting with a 4-day school week, maybe?
Yeah, what's important about this story is while that may work in some agricultural communities, we're seeing urban districts like the Independence School District, which would be one of probably the 10 or 12 largest in the state, going to a 4-day work week for financial reasons. And this is kind of a race to the bottom, and it adversely affects, lower income students, minorities, and folks that it's not really well suited for. And so there's a lawsuit going on there. You can read more about it at readlion.com.
Panel, thank you. When we get back, some of the sights and sounds from cable news over the last week, including another bombshell from Tulsi Gabbard on Mrs. Clinton. President Trump takes over in D.C., as we talked about, federalizing the police force and the reaction to that, and much more when we get back on the Lion Week in Review. Welcome back to the Lion Week in Review. If you missed any of today's show, or you want to get caught up on previous shows or any segment that you might have missed, you can always head over to YouTube and check out all our stories, as usual, at readlion.com, as we're back with the panel, taking a look at some of the sights and sounds this week across the cable news spectrum. We start with the announcement of President Trump federalizing policing for at least 30 days inside Washington, D.C. The reaction was fast and furious. You'll hear from the mayor of D.C. right after President Trump, and then you'll get some reaction from a Maryland congressman, Jamie Raskin, neighboring nearby.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? and placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening, and they've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly.
We don't believe it's legal to use the American military against American citizens on American soil. I'm not a lawyer, and but I think that's a fairly widely held fact. And so, but we've seen them move, I think, the active military into California.
He's deployed the National Guard. At least I'm happy to see that he acknowledges he has the power to activate the National Guard. That was what he refused to do 4.5 years ago when the Capitol and his own vice president and Congress were under attack by the mob violence that he unleashed against us. And he sat on his hands for many hours and then later asserted he somehow didn't have the authority to deploy the National Guard.
So some conflicting messages there, Michael. You have one Democrat, Jamie Raskin, saying, well, I'm glad he's acknowledging he now has the authority. You have the mayor saying he doesn't have the authority. Gavin Newsom similarly asserted he didn't have the authority, and I think a judge actually ruled in President Trump's favor there. So what do you say about all of it?
Well, I guess number one, it's been pretty well established that Trump did make the National Guard available, and it was the decision, apparently, of the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, not to avail herself of that. Number two, my mind may be playing tricks on me, but I think I saw a video of Mayor Bowser from a few years ago under the Biden administration actually seeking access to the National Guard for crime. So that's a little odd. I guess things have changed. There's a new Republican president. So, and I would just add one other thing. I saw an ex-post by one D.C. worker who I happen to know who said after one day of this that she's never felt safer in D.C.
Yeah, and the polls all show it, Melissa. I just saw one this morning as we record this show that said of the 600-some surveyed residents of D.C., 91% of them identified crime as a very serious problem or a somewhat serious problem, despite the fact that many who are in opposition to what Trump's doing say it's not a big deal.
Well, and I don't think I can say this enough. We have been gaslit by the mainstream media time and time again. And this is another one of those places where I feel like they're going to step their toe over the line so far about cleanup of crime that they are just going to tip the scales in all of our favor once again.
Chris Cillizza over at Politico, Adam, I'll get your reaction to this. I think kind of wades into what we were talking about in the previous segment, how this shakes out politically. Take a listen.
Now that Donald Trump has officially taken over, at least for the near term, D.C.'s police department and deployed 800 National Guard troops to the city, Democrats have a decision to make. And I think there's a trap in here, politically speaking, for Democrats that they have to be really careful to avoid. So, the natural inclination, I think, from Democrats is to resist this strongly, to say, rightly, that the data, the broad data that we have shows crime, violent crime, assaults, all sorts of crime in Washington is actually down, that there's not a crime spree, it's down from 2024 even, but certainly from 2023 and earlier. Okay. And to resist Trump more broadly, that this is a takeover of a local municipality, that this is how authoritarians work, that, he's strong-arming people. I get all of those arguments. And yet, I really do think that Democrats have to be mindful not to go too far on this.
Adam, out of curiosity, do you think, here again, the polling suggests most people believe Washington, D.C., particularly the people that live in it, is a violent place? So is that so Liza says that that's something Democrats can keep pounding on. Crime is down, crime is down, crime is down. Does that work?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. The recent incidents that prompted this, a young staffer for a Kansas congressman was shot and killed, and then this guy who worked for Elon Musk, he had a nickname Big Balls, was savagely beaten up trying to intervene to stop a crime. And so everyone knows the city is not safe. There may be some safer neighborhoods or pockets here and there, but the crime is real, it's spreading. Those numbers have been cooked as well. We've done some reporting on that, or you'll see articles on Reliant that the numbers showing that violent crime is down didn't include several seriously violent crimes. So it's not believable. And to me, the question for the Democrats is, like, who are you really working for? Like, the real people, the residents, the citizens of this city, 91% believe it's violent or crime-based, want help. And are you going to fight that? In favor of what? Protecting criminals?
And Michael, to that point, this is reminiscent of the kind of one of the big high-profile fights earlier in the year when they were talking about various detained illegal migrants and being sent back to El Salvador and them traveling to El Salvador to show solidarity with the illegal violent migrant.
Well, here's another trap. I mean, it's asking somebody, what do you think about this? I've never heard that as a trap before, but, allowing the Democrats to express their opinions on this is a trap. Okay, that's interesting. The other thing I thought was funny that this guy said is that Democrats' natural inclination is going to be to resist this crackdown on crime. I think we've identified the problem.
Melissa, we'll head to you next. Charlie Kirk, who is the leader of the Turning Point organization. Many, many young people across the country have gotten politically active and become more conservative, I think, under Charlie Kirk's leadership. He went on CNBC this week and talked with the anchors there about why the populist uprising amongst people in his age group.
We did not receive any apologies from the ruling class that lied to us repeatedly during COVID. And again, I could go one after the other.
No. I would say that actually COVID, to me, I mean, this is actually generational, is actually very much like the 2008 crisis in a way.
Okay,
that spawned Occupy Wall Street. This has sort of spawned a different sort of political.
Do you want to do Russia collusion? Do you want to do the laptop? Do you want to do? I mean, take your pick on the way things are covered in this country.
All I'm suggesting, though, is this full-on, constant relitigation of what took place in the past, as opposed to a clear-eyed view of what's happening now.
I would just interject respectfully that it's not just relitigation. First of all, no one was held accountable largely for what happened.
That's why I said it's sort of like 2008, because a lot of people thought all those bankers were supposed to go to jail, frankly.
Well, and honestly, there should have been. I think there should have been some administration of justice. That's a separate issue. I was young at the time. I can only speak about what we're living through now. And a lot of the COVID injustices we are still seeing today with younger people and their ability to own homes, with the inflation that President Trump is trying to fix that was inherited by Joe Biden. So what I'm getting at, and I know a lot of the C-suite of America watches this program, they might understand where is this populist fervor coming from, is that you have missed the mark on so many of the core proclamations you made to the American people.
So, Melissa, young people understandably more cynical about powerful institutions these days.
Understandably so. I mean, and we could talk about school choice here too, right? In terms of Charlie's background. I mean, here, more Charlies for the world. Charlie nailed it. And that's why we see the popularity about him and what Turning Point USA is doing, because people want more of transparency, boldness, and that's what is so scary to liberals, is that when we are educated and we work together and have the same talking points and truth, scariest thing for them.
And to this point of accountability, Michael, I want to get you in on this. John Solomon reporting more, in addition to the Russiagate, Obamagate, whatever you wish to call the scandals of the intel community and fixing the Russian intelligence to reflect badly on Trump. More information came out this week about Mrs. Clinton and the work she did with the Clinton Foundation. Take a listen.
Tonight, we're going to tell you about the other Clinton investigation, one that was running in 3 separate FBI offices, New York, Washington, and Little Rock. It was a predicated criminal investigation that was examining whether Hillary Clinton ran a pay-to-play scheme that delivered favors from her perch as Secretary of State, while foreigners and others paid large sums of money to her family foundation, the Clinton Foundation, run by Bill Clinton and their daughter, eventually Chelsea Clinton. 3 separate agencies, 3 separate bureaus, offices of the FBI believe they had predicated evidence to pursue that. Every time they tried to move the ball down the road in the shadows of the 2016 election, they got shut down. I mean, they got shut down at the highest levels of their agency. Andrew McCabe, the deputy director, a man who potentially had a conflict of interest with Hillary Clinton. He So his wife got money from Hillary Clinton's former campaign chair to run for a Virginia state Senate. And by the way, McCabe attended the meeting where that assistance was solicited. He eventually was conflicted out, but not before he gave the order to his agents that you won't investigate or do anything on this unless I approve it. Downstream from them, four different U.S. attorneys' offices under Barack Obama were asked for help by the agents. Agents need help. We need a grand juror. We need to get evidence. We want to move the case down the road. All three of those four offices told the agents, you're on your own. We will not assist you in your pursuit of criminal charges against Hillary Clinton. And then perhaps the most extraordinary statement in the document that we are going to show you on screen now, they can put it up as you're looking here. The Deputy Attorney General for Barack Obama, Sally Yates, explicitly told the FBI, shut it down, meaning the corruption probes of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, so Michael, with just about a minute to go here, I know that's a lot, but what we're finding is at the highest levels of government, repeatedly, there were orders, ignore, deflect, stick with a lie. It seems to be a running theme.
Yeah, number one, I've said it before, and I can't stress it enough. People need to educate themselves totally apart from the legacy media. John Solomon at Just the News is the main one to go to if you're going to gravitate. Number two, Democrat scandals are piling up so fast, you're going to need a second bingo card to keep track of them. And number three, the FBI says in terms of Hillary Clinton, there's nothing here. The FBI says in terms of Trump, let's make something up.
Panel, great stuff this week. Lots to do, and we will continue to cover it all at readlion.com. But when we get back, we always like to celebrate as we're getting closer to that 250th birthday of our country next July. We'll take a look at Faith and Freedom 250 when the Lion Week in Review returns.
What if I told you the first and most enduring textbook in American history wasn't written by a scholar or a schoolmaster, but by the divine hand of God? In early America, the Bible wasn't just a source of faith. It was the foundation of learning. The book that taught children to read, to reason, and to live rightly. This is the story of how Scripture shaped the minds and morals of colonial America.
Early in the 17th century, the Bible became an essential book in American colonial settlements founded by English religious refugees. Pilgrim separatists looking for a place where they could worship freely outside the authority of established governmental churches initiated Plymouth Plantation in 1620. When they left the old world behind, they not only fled religious persecution, but they also sought to build an entirely new society based on Holy Scripture. Settlers not only had to be home builders, farmers, hunters, craftsmen, and soldiers, they also took on the roles of clergymen, physicians, civil authorities, and educators. These were roles they may not have had in their previous lives, but which became essential to keep their settlements viable. With limited resources and little ability to manufacture or print anything for educational purposes, they relied almost exclusively on one book to guide them, the Holy Bible.
Nearly all education in the early colonies took place in the home. Children were taught reading and writing through rote memorization by copying verses from the Bible to improve their literacy, grammar, vocabulary, and rhetoric. They even used the Bible to assist them in mathematics, or ciphering as it was called at the time. As their skills improved, students also absorbed valuable moral lessons directly from this textbook, whether they realized it or not. Scriptural lessons they heard in sermons each week were reinforced in their daily education.
Local and colonial governments began finding ways to institutionalize education in their villages and towns. The Bible and the New England Primer, which borrowed heavily from scriptural texts, became the main sources of book learning for colonial students. Even higher education was based upon religious texts to train future clergymen in North America. All 9 colleges established in the English colonies were begun by Protestant denominations for that very purpose.
First came Harvard in 1636, founded by the Congregational Church. Then William and Mary in 1693, an Anglican school. Yale in 1701, also Congregational. Princeton in 1746 for Presbyterians. King's College in 1754 for Anglicans. the College of Philadelphia in 1755, which was officially non-sectarian, but included Anglicans and Quakers among its founders. The College of Rhode Island was founded in 1764, a Baptist school. Queen's College in 1766, of the Dutch Reformed Church. And lastly, Dartmouth in 1769, another congregational school.
Many colonial Americans were products of a deeply religious society. The Calvinists of New England, the Quakers of Pennsylvania, the Anglicans in every colony, Roman Catholics in Maryland, and others were all very comfortable with their children learning directly from God's Holy Bible and inspired scripture. This method of learning honored their ancestors, preserved their beliefs, and molded children into righteous, God-fearing adults who would perpetuate these religious convictions.
It also bound colonists together with a common and consistent understanding of the world in which they lived. The parables, stories, psalms, and verses within the Bible provided valuable life lessons for colonial students. The obvious moral lessons imparted by biblical texts taught them how to live lives of virtue and righteousness before others and before God.
Lessons from the Old Testament, based on the Ten Commandments and Mosaic Law, focused on obedience to God and the need for order in society. Puritan values of hard work, diligence, and sacrifice were bolstered in the Scriptures with the understanding that these efforts would one day be judged by God. These ideas helped shape what became known as the Protestant work ethic in colonial America.
Moral responsibility and a charge to be a part of a community were found throughout the Bible. Earth was viewed as a pale reflection of the perfect order of God's heaven. Men and women were to toil on earth in pursuit of heavenly perfection. This lesson was the backbone for community service and the local governance in the American colonies.
The Bible also offered vivid warnings about the consequences of living an immoral life. The effects of living sinfully and selfishly, rather than focusing on eternal salvation with God and His saints, were well known to religious American colonists. Recurring stories of covenants between God and man in the Garden of Eden, with Noah after the flood, between God and Abraham, with Moses and the ancient Hebrews, and the covenant of the New Testament fulfilled by Jesus Christ, were all models for lesser compacts between mere men in an imperfect world.
In addition to moral and ethical lessons, colonial students learned the beauty of language by memorizing the poetry of the Psalms and mastering the cadence of scriptural prose. They were exposed to the methods of storytelling and learned how to communicate their ideas clearly and powerfully. In their reading of the Bible, students memorized hundreds of phrases and sayings that they would continue to use throughout their lives. This shared knowledge became vital in uniting colonists from Georgia to New Hampshire and from coastal communities to frontier settlements in similar struggles and causes.
Each of the 66 books of the Bible contained lessons that not only guided Christian people, but they contributed to colonial society. With the Bible as the primary textbook used to instruct children, colonial communities preserved their faith and secured their future simultaneously. Teachings from the Bible as a textbook provided an education that propelled the colonies to near the top of worldwide literacy rates and toward a lifestyle far more advanced than many contemporary Western European societies.
The influence of the Bible on American education was bolstered during the Great Awakening of the mid-1700s and became the foundation for many of the ideals and beliefs espoused by our founding fathers.
It's easy to overlook how powerful a single book can be. But for early Americans, the Bible was more than just scripture. It was the cornerstone of education, the foundation of community, and the compass that helped shape the nation. That legacy still echoes in the story of American freedom.